Good morning, dear students. Today we have to continue the third part of the activity 4 from stimulus to response pathways and nervous centers. Don't forget to prepare your notebook and a pen, phone or laptop and to open your biology book page 71. At the end of this video, you will be able to infer the importance of the nucleus in the cell life, to interpret the degeneration experiments, and to trace the pathway of the nervous message through an innate reflex. As an introduction, after a car accident, one person from the passenger lost the sensation of his left arm and the second person lost the ability to move his leg. Why one person only lost the sensation while the second lost the movement? Let's start by the importance of the nucleus. This is a unicellular organism. It's an organism having one nucleus made up of one cell. After dissection of this microorganism, this part, which is the nucleated part, the part containing the nucleus, regenerates and becomes again a complete cell, while this part, which is a nucleated part without the nucleus, degenerates and dies. This indicates that the nucleus is the vital center of the cell, the center responsible for the life of the cell. The part containing the nucleus can stay alive or can regenerate, while the one having no nucleus will die or will degenerate. After discovering the role of nucleus in the cell life, now we have to make many experiments to know the location of a nucleus or the location of cell bodies in the neurons of the spinal nerve. Before starting, please pause the video and open your book page 71, document D. This document includes 4 experiments. We have to analyze, then to give a significance to each one of them. Let's start by the first experiment, experiment A, in order to verify the location of cell bodies in the roots of the spinal nerve. So, our objective now is to know where are cell bodies located in the dorsal root and where are the cell bodies located in the ventral root. The first experiment, we cut or we make a section here in the spinal nerve. What happened? This part, the shaded part, degenerates. What is the meaning of the degeneration of this part? When this part degenerates, this part is dead, which means that this part does not contain a nucleus inside. So the nucleus is in this part or in this part, we don't know where, but we know that this part is a nucleated part without a nucleus. So cell bodies which contain the nucleus are located on the right side of the section, this side, since they contain the nucleus of the neuron. This is the first experiment. Second experiment B, another section is done here in the ventral root. After cutting the ventral root here, what happened? This part degenerates, while this part at the right side of the section stays alive, which means that this part does not contain a nucleus, is enucleated, while this part contains nucleus, thus it contains cell bodies. So cell bodies of the ventral root are located on the right side of the section, the side of the spinal cord, especially exactly inside the gray matter of the spinal cord. Now the third experiment, the third section is done on the dorsal root. After dissection of the dorsal root, this part degenerates, the right side of the section, while this part stays alive. This indicates that this part is enucleated, does not contain a nucleus, while this part contains the nucleus. But where is the nucleus located? In the spinal ganglion or outside the spinal ganglion? Let's see. So, cell bodies of the dorsal root are located on the left side of the section, but exactly where we don't know till now. So we have to make a fourth experiment to know where are the cell bodies of the dorsal root located. This is the last experiment. We make the section here. What happened? this part degenerate. This indicates that this part is enucleated, while the nucleus or the cell bodies exactly are located inside the spinal ganglion. So the cell bodies of the dorsal root are located inside the spinal ganglion. So till now we made 4 experiments to locate the cell bodies of the dorsal root and that of the ventral root. As a conclusion, the cell bodies are located in the spinal ganglion of the dorsal root and in the gray matter of the spinal cord for the ventral root. Now we have to pause the video and to solve number 4, page 71 from probing the activity. We have to know why the treatment of the nervous message is only done in the gray matter of the spinal cord. Why it's done only in the gray matter? Because the gray matter is made up of cell bodies, while the white matter does not contain cell bodies inside. The last objective to be covered in this lesson is about reflex act and reflex arc. First, we have to distinguish between these two terms. Act is from action, so it's an involuntary action done by us in response to a stimulus. Like this figure, when they touch our knee to test our reflex, we involuntarily, without thinking, move our leg upward. Or another example, when you touch a nail directly, we have to remove our leg without thinking to protect ourselves. So it's an involuntary action called reflex act done without thinking, without the intervention of our cerebrum. While the reflex arc is the pathway involved in a reflex act. For example, when we burn the hand, so the reflex act is the pathway done from the stimulus to the response. The receptors in the skin detect the stimulus and send a nervous message going to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord interprets the message and send another one going to the effector organ, which is here the muscle of the hand. This is the pathway of the nervous message, so it's the reflex arc. It's like the arc in the shape. For this reason, it's called reflex arc.
Reflex action and reflex arc. Whenever we happen to come close to an object that is capable of harming us, we immediately withdraw the part of the body that is the most vulnerable. This is called reflex action. When a person touches a hot cup, the sensory receptors in the hand send a stimulus via the afferent pathway, which contains afferent neurons, to the spinal cord. The afferent neurons enter the dorsal nerve root of the spinal cord. The stimulus is passed on to the efferent neuron, which travels the efferent pathway to reach the effector organ, in this case the muscles of the arm. As a result, the hand is quickly pulled back. The brain is not involved in the reflex actions, as it would take more time for the impulses to travel to and fro from the brain. The afferent neurons or receptors, taking the causal stimulus to the CNS, the spinal cord, the efferent neurons or effectors, the exciter neurons, and the action performed in response to the stimulus together form the reflex arc.
First, the reflex arc means the pathway of the nervous message during a reflex act. It will start from the sensory organ or the receptor, which sends a message to the spinal cord, the central nervous system, which interprets the reflex action. The involuntary action is the spinal cord containing interneurons. This message is sensory, carried by the dorsal nerve. It's an afferent message in a centripetal direction because it will go to the central nervous system. Then another message is sent by a motor nerve, a ventral nerve. It's an afferent message in a centrifugal direction because it will go away from the spinal cord to the effector organ, which are, for example, muscles or our glands, according to the example, to the action done. Look to this figure and try to write the reflex arc. The sensory organ is what? Receptors of the skin. They will send a message to the spinal cord containing interneurons. The spinal cord sends another message to the effector organ, which is here the muscle. The sensory nerve, which is an afferent nerve, transmits the first message, and a motor nerve, which is the afferent one, transmits the second message. For the next time, you have to study the summary to solve exercise 4, page 83 from the book, and you have a quiz in activity 4.